I've got a core set of values that I think have to be advanced, and that my individual salvation depends on our collective salvation.
And so we can see how the doing of black theology of liberation includes biblical themes such as liberation of the oppressed, and to see that our mission to get into heaven or a new reality is linked to the liberation and the practice of freedom of the poor.
Is Obama taking love thy neighbor far enough?
I think in his rhetoric he is pushing very far. I think in his rhetoric he is pushing in the direction of a radical redistribution of resources. How it's done is another thing.
Everywhere I go, people say we are ready for change. We know the difference we can make when we work together to open the doors of opportunity wide enough for everyone to walk through.
Is that there's always been another tradition of politics. There's been a tradition that says that we're all connected as a people. That basic notion that I am my brother's keeper, that I am my sister's keeper, that we can't rise up if some of us are still down. And it's that principle that got me into politics in the first place, and that's the reason that I'm running for the presidency.
We have to change. That we have to have leadership that will inspire us to be different, to understand that we have a mutual obligation to one another in this society in order for it to work. It's not just words when you say we are one another's brothers and sisters keepers. It begins and ends there.
The truth is, most Americans don't want much. Folks don't want the whole pie. I do, but there's a fat man screaming to get out of me. Most Americans feel blessed to thrive just a little bit. Well, good, let's lower the bar. But that's out of reach for them. And then she continued, the truth is, in order to get things like universal health care and revamped education system, then someone is going to have to give up a piece of their pie so someone else can have more. Well, hello and welcome back, Karl Marx.
But there's also got to be a social responsibility. There has to be a sense of mutual responsibility, and there's got to be political will in the White House to make that happen. That's what I'm committed to doing. That's the reason I'm running for president.
Mark, talk to me about this pie stuff. I think there is hidden language in especially Michelle Obama. Her language is riddled with socialism.
Yeah, I think she's a conventional university socialist. She's talking about universal health care and revamping and reforming education. By any reasonable measure, American education is overfunded. We spend more per student on public school education than any country except Switzerland, and we have nothing to show for it. And that's the point. If you believe in redistribution, who does the redistributing? The government. The government's an inefficient spender of money.
You know,
is African Americans ever going to get reparations for slavery?
I think the reparations we need right here in South Carolina is investment, for example, in our schools. And if we make the investments and understand that those are our children, that's the kind of reparations that are really going to make a difference in America right now.
Is anyone on the stage?
Had not made systematic investments, and the only way we're going to make it is by making sure that those of us who are fortunate enough to have the money actually make a contribution for all the programs that we've been talking about tonight.
Each instance, when the rate dropped, revenues from the tax increased. The government took in more money. And in the 1980s, when the tax was increased to 28%, the revenues went down. So why raise it at all? Especially given the fact that 100 million people in this country own stock and would be affected.
Well, Charlie, what I've said is that I would look at raising the capital gains tax for purposes of fairness.
Freedom also means freedom from want, not freedom lost to an empty stomach. So I'll make poverty reduction a key part of helping other nations reduce chaos and anarchy.
why is he the lead sponsor of something called the Global Poverty Act? Yeah, global poverty. It cost America an estimated $845 billion, while making us subservient to a whole array of UN treaties and resolutions like the Kyoto Protocol.
To understand what global poverty looks like, what a great nation like ours, how we can impact small villages across oceans,
is economic justice.
And then you have black churches like Trinity who are concerned about personal healing, but also about social justice and serving the community.
Engagement requires work and sacrifice. It is uncomfortable and it is hard, and it never stops.
When any human being is denied a life of dignity and respect, no matter whether they live in Anacostia or Appalachia or in a village in Africa, then we have more work to do. That's what this election's about. It's about the responsibilities we all share for the future we hold in common.
They want that money allocated fairly.
I've got a core set of values that I think have to be advanced, and that my individual salvation depends on our collective salvation.
At the same time, there is a threat posed to human freedom by the enormous power of the modern state. History teaches the dangers of government that overreaches. Political control taking precedence over free economic growth, secret police, mindless bureaucracy, all combining to stifle individual excellence and personal freedom. And one of the simple but overwhelming facts of our time is this: of all the millions of refugees we've seen in the modern world, their flight is always away from, not toward, the communist world. Rejection of the arbitrary power of the state, the refusal to subordinate the rights of the individual to the superstate, the realization that collectivism stifles all the best human impulses for the sake of peace and justice. Let us move toward a world in which all people are at last free to determine their own destiny.